For those who don't know me, I am moving to a different city to go back to college to become a physical therapy assistant. So that includes leaving my current apartment and finding an apartment in a new city that I have only been to a couple of times. And I really didn't know what I was doing because when I moved into this apartment, I was moving in with my brother and he did most of the adulting side of things. So needless to say, this experience has been a huge learning curve for me, and I wanted to just share my experience in case any of you are going through a similar transition, and hopefully something that I share can help you. So when I first started looking for a new apartment, I was not really sure whether I wanted to have a roommate or not. So I kind of was just looking all across the board for things that were decently cheap, and I wasn't really particular about 1 or 2 bedrooms because, like I said, I didn't know whether or not I would be trying to have a roommate. I found an apartment that was a decent price, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, good layout, had a balcony. I'm pretty sure it had in-unit laundry, and it was one of the updated units in the community that had a pool, dog parks. It looked great. Rookie me did not think to go visit the place before signing a lease. So I went through the application process. There were so many hiccups that should have been a warning sign to me. It just took so many times calling them back and being like, hey, nothing's moving along. Do you need anything else from me? It was a hassle. Should have thought that through and been like, maybe something's up here. Long story short, I left on a trip for a few weeks, so I wasn't even in the area to go drive by the place. Thankfully, things got delayed long enough that I did end up coming home, and I had to go to the new city for something else anyways. So I went ahead and just drove by the apartment complex. I was like, I just want to check it out, see how it feels. And it's a really good thing I did that, because from the moment I drove in the driveway, I was like, something feels off here. Not that this is like a huge indication, but there was literally a dead cat in the road that had literally been decaying there for who knows how long. And I'm just like, why has no one picked this up? Like, it wasn't fresh. It was, yeah, anyways, I'm not gonna go into it. And there was just like trash around, and people had stuff piled on their balconies, which reading through the lease later, I saw was like, you're not supposed to have anything unsightly on your balconies, but apparently they don't enforce the rules. So yeah, anyway, I drove through the whole complex and I just felt like this does not seem like a good place. So I went home and I was really not sure about it. And I think it was a few days later, I finally got the lease and I was reading through it. It was like a 39-page lease. And I was like, why is it that long? Anyway, I was reading through the lease and I just was like, I just don't feel right about this. So I had only been consulting the reviews on apartments.com, but I decided to hop on Google and see what reviews they had there. And I am so glad I did that, because so many people were saying that they hear gunshots at night, people's cars get broken into, someone's daughter like got assaulted by several other teenage girls in the community and the bus driver had to come break it up. And just like horror stories left and right. Maintenance doesn't fix a thing, you know, all the things you don't want to hear about an apartment complex were in the Google reviews, and there were hundreds of them. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm not signing this lease. So I was back at square one with about a month and a half until I needed to move. And I was kind of like, great, do I just need to stay here and commute? Which, like, it could be doable, but it's a pretty long drive and I have classes like 4 days a week. So I was really not looking forward to that. So I ended up back on apartments.com and thankfully revisited a different complex that I had written off because the only 2 reviews they had on apartments.com were not great. But I looked back through it and I was like, well, the photos don't look terrible and it sounds okay. So I went to Google reviews for that one, and there were like 200 reviews and most of them were positive. I think their average was like a 4.5 stars, which was way higher than any of the other complexes that I was looking at, I'm pretty sure. So after reading through those reviews, I got on their website, looked through the photos more, and ended up calling and talking to a lease agent, and it just felt like, okay, this is much more reasonable sounding. It is a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, so I will not be having a roommate, which honestly I'm not too mad about because I'm kind of picky about my personal space. But it does have in-unit laundry, and it's an updated space, new carpet, new countertops, new appliances, new cabinets, and I was able to get a 3rd-story unit with a nice big window overlooking the lawn and a tree, and I can just look out over nature. There are apartment buildings on either side, but they're like kind of out of my field of view when I'm just sitting in my living room. And this time I did go drive through and look at the complex with my brother and sister-in-law and make sure that it felt good. And it did. It felt clean, it felt safe, and I was like, okay, I can do this. I should probably look back at what the timeline actually was, but they handled things so quickly, got me through, got me set up. It was like a week and a half, I feel like, from when I contacted them to when I signed the lease. And a couple weeks ago, I got the keys, and the second that I stepped into the space, I was just like, this is perfect. So I mentioned that it was updated. What I did not mention is that they did not have photos of what the updated units looked like. They had photos of the old units, which they're not terrible, but they're a little old. So I really had no idea what to expect with the updates. But as soon as I stepped in and saw the kitchen, I was like, this is exactly what I was hoping that it would look like. It has newer appliances, decent looking countertops, white cabinets, good flooring, and I was just like, okay, this feels like home. So what do I want you to learn from this story? First of all, go drive by the place. Don't just do sight unseen. That is not, just don't do that. Make sure you know what you're getting into. Read everything you can. Read all the fine print. Read the whole lease. I know it's a lot of reading and it's legalese and it's hard to read through, but read the whole lease. Ask questions about the move-in costs, because I am ending up paying about the equivalent of 2 months rent with all the move-in costs. And that leads me to my next point, which is pay attention to timing, because the move-in date for this new apartment was the beginning of July, and I have my current apartment until the end of July. And I asked if I could move out the date at all, and she was like, well, you can, but your rent's gonna go up by like, I don't remember how much per month, but it was, you know, not like $1 or $2. Because a lot of these places change their rent like on a pretty much daily basis. And she was upfront with me. She told me that. She's like, yeah, our rent amount changes all the time. So you kind of want to just lock it in with what it's at right now. So pay attention to how much overlap you're going to have, because I'm going to have like 4 weeks of overlap. And that kind of hurts to pay with the move-in costs like 3 months of rent for 1 month. But there kind of wasn't a whole lot I could do about it. So we're just dealing with that. So yeah, just make sure you know what you're getting into, do your research, and don't settle for something that you think might be good enough, because this is your new home we're talking about. You're gonna be here for a while, and you wanna make sure it's something that you feel safe in and that you genuinely like, and that you aren't going to get a few months into the lease and then realize that you do not want to stay here, because it's really hard to get out of leases. So I hope you gained something helpful from this video. And if you yourself are moving to a different city, I wish you all the best in your transition. And thank you so much for watching.